Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another deck profile on the channel. Today I'm bringing you Vaalmonica Fiendsmith. This is a deck I've been playing for a couple weeks now, and it's pretty good. I won't sit here and say it's the best Fiendsmith deck in the world. I won't say it's the best deck in the world, but I think it's actually pretty fun and I like the way it operates. It's a deck that plays out of kind of like everything. It can recycle cards from Banished. It plays cards out of the graveyard, from hand. It's a pendulum deck. It's pretty good. I think the biggest problem with this deck is that we have a lack of monsters. We only have 3 monsters. I'd really like a 4th or even a 5th card, but overall I think this deck is pretty good, so let's go ahead and get straight on into it. So to start with, we have our 3 copies of Beatrice Vaalmonica. This card is pretty good on normal or pendulum summon. Add a Vaalmonica card from your deck to your hand, so it's any card, and then if it's sent to the graveyard while you have both pendulum scales, you can add it back to your hand. Then if you control monsters except itself, if you control a monster except itself, your opponent cannot target this card with attack. It's kind of nice because it's kind of small, but that rarely comes up. Usually you're not ending on this. You are ending, however, on your 3 Angelo Vaalmonica and your 3 Demono Vaalmonica, but in your pen scales. So these are both pretty good. They allow you to copy the effects of your normal Vaalmonica spells and traps. Demono allows you to copy the effect that would take damage. Angelo allows you to copy the effect that would gain life. Pretty good. Demono also, while it's in the pendulum scale, for each counter it has, it reduces your opponent's attack so they can't attack over you. And Angelo allows you to quick link when your opponent declares an attack. A pretty important effect to remember, especially when we look at our extra deck monsters. We're on triple Vaalmonica Skelta. This card, so they all have 2 effects, and you have to have pendulum scales to choose the effect, otherwise your opponent gets to choose. Skelta, if you gain life, it lets you place a card from the bottom of your hand back into the bottom of the deck, and then draw 2. If you take damage, allows you to search a Vaalmonica spell trap. Really good. It's especially good when you consider we are playing Fiendsmith and we can put some of the garnets back in the deck. We're on 1 Terraforming along with our 3 Agathological Voice. This card on activation allows you to add a Vaalmonica monster from your deck to your hand. So Skelta into this is basically whatever you want. Basically Beatrice is the whole deck. I mean, it says it's the whole deck, but this can search you Skelta, which can then search you the field spell, which then gets into a monster. So it's very, very well connected. We're only on 2 Invitare. I was playing this at 3. The reason I cut it down to 2 was to make space for the second copy of some of the Fiendsmith cards. But I liked this at 3. It basically always guaranteed you had a Light Fiend to go in for the Fiendsmith engine, but 2 should probably be fine. We're all in 1 Disharmonia and 1 Versare. Disharmonia is mandatory, allows you to place a resonance counter and then either gain 500 and put 1 of your banished cards into your hand, or take 500 and put 1 from your graveyard into your hand. Pretty good. Versare allows you to excavate until you find a Vaalmonica card, or take 500 damage and then Foolish a Vaalmonica card. I also should say, Invitare, it doesn't have a take damage or gain life effect, so that's kind of bad. It doesn't let you gain your resonance counters as well. But what it does do is, if you control a Vaalmonica monster, you can add a pendulum to your hand and 1 to the face of extra deck, or if you don't, you get to special 1 from deck. The problem is, Skelta only triggers on normal and pendulum. It does not trigger on special from deck, so that's kind of lackluster. That's why this is usually a 1 of, but I liked it at 3 and I also like it at 2. We're on 1 copy of Followed Rhythm and 1 copy of Chosen Melody. These seem to be pretty standard, and I honestly, there are times when Chosen Melody does come up, but most often I'd rather just play 2 Followed Rhythm. Followed Rhythm, you can gain 500 to destroy a spell trap, or take 500 to put 1 back, to put a card from the field back into the hand. Chosen Melody, it gains 500s, your Vaalmonicas can't be targeted, your opponent can target Vaalmonica monsters with attacks, or take 500 and negate the effect of a monster your opponent controls. It's a good effect, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like people see negate and they just kind of turbo into it. Oftentimes I'd rather have Followed Rhythm. For this Fiendsmith engine, we're on 2 copies of Engraver and the 1 Lurie. The 1 Lurie. Again, this is really nice because with Skelta, you can actually put the Lurry back into the deck and then draw 2, so that way you can go into the Lurry off of your 2 copies of Tract. You might even consider a 3rd copy of this, but this searches any Light Fiend, including, I don't know, your Demono, which is pretty nice. It searches any Light Fiend, including your Demono, which is nice. It gets you to your pen scales. I'm only on 2 Engraver. I think that's the correct number for a deck like this, which has so many main deck Light Fiends. If you're playing it in something like Fiendsmith, Snake Eyes, or Yubel, where you don't have Light Fiends, 3 is probably correct, but I think in a deck like this, where you have access to Light Fiends at all time, Engraver is fine at 2. And then again, I like 2 Tract because it lets you search any Light Fiend from your deck to your hand, which is nice. On to the non-engine, we're just on 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Imper, only 2 Molcharmi. I just only have the 2. I'd probably play a 3rd, but I'm only on 2 because I only have 2. And then we're on the Angel of Blue Tears and Dimensional Barrier line, just because it's a main deck D barrier. It's pretty good if you go first, I hear. So that is the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we're on 2 copies of Zeb, 1 copy of Duralame, and then 1 copy of Var. In all honesty, Var is pretty cuttable, but these 3 are mandatory, especially because you use your first Zeb to go into the Fiendsmith line half the time, because this is also a Light Fiend. So you definitely need 2 Zeb, 1 Duralame is fine, and then Var, again, it's nice, you go into it on like turn 3 and 4, but oftentimes decks don't get that far, so the 4 is fine, but you can cut Var. We're on 1 Requiem, 1 Sequence. We are on 1 Moon of the Closed Sky. You might be questioning why we're on Moon when we have main deck Light Fiends. The answer is pretty simple. A lot of times you can end up in situations where you can't get a Light Fiend on field, or your main deck Light Fiend in Demono or Zeb, sometimes you can't get to it because you don't have the resonance counter. So having Moon guaranteeing a Light Fiend is pretty nice, especially if you have to like normal a hand trap or something like that. To go with the Fiendsmith engine, we are on 3 fusions. We're on the Desiree, Lacrima, and Necroquip. Pretty standard. Desiree probably is cuttable. I've gone into it maybe once or twice. It's just a nice flex spot. You could switch this out for something else, but yeah, I think playing it is perfectly fine. We are on the 1 Beat Rice so that we can do the Angel of Blue Tears line. It's also pretty nice if you end on it because you can dump the Duralame, or not the Duralame, you can dump the Chosen Melody or Followed Rhythm to copy it from the graveyard. There's also been a couple games where I had to go Beatrice send Skelta to copy Skelta with the Pendulum Scales because I couldn't get access to it. And I should mention, so just like the Pendulums can copy the cards from the graveyard, Zeb can also do that. Zeb can banish to copy both effects though. So that's really nice. So if you end on like Zeb and Beatrice, you can Beatrice dump the Chosen Melody or Followed Rhythm and then Zeb to copy it. So you're never like out of interactions with that. Last 3 cards here, or last 4 cards here are just kind of flex spots. So we're on IP into SP. Pretty solid. It's really good. Oftentimes you want to end on IP because IP can also go into Zeb and Duralame. They are link 1s, they're generic link 1s, you just have to have enough resonance counters. So there are times where you go IP into Zeb or IP into Duralame, but you also want the utility of IP into SP. And then any deck I think is playing IP and Moon, I think you should probably be playing Goddess. There's absolutely no reason not to play it. It's a flex spot, 100%. It lets you out things that are kind of tough to out because you don't have a lot of ways to clear big bodies. I was struggling against, I think it was Centurion, to clear like a 3500 attack monster. And if I had Underworld Goddess, I would have been fine, but I didn't, so... yeah, and then the last card here is Link Spider. The reason Link Spider is because if you get nibbed and you have the Pendulum Scales up with the resonance counters and you haven't gone into Zeb, you can Link Spider into Zeb, Zeb into Requiem, Requiem into Engraver, all that kind of stuff. So it gives you a way to get back into your mainline combo without needing any more bodies, especially if you have your Pendulum Scales. You usually pen summon to begin with. So it is pretty nice to have that option. It hasn't come up yet, but I think having the insurance of if I do get nibbed is pretty nice. So what do we change in the upcoming format when we no longer have this? Well, you can definitely play a High King Caesar. If this gets banned, then you could play Lars. You could play, I think it's Dragulus is the Book of Moon. Lars is probably the best one because Lars is 1 Omni Negate. This is just double summon negates, and Beatrice is just, no, it's Beatrice. It's pretty freaking good. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this deck is pretty simple. It's probably not going to live too much longer, but I am interested to see how this deck changes with not only the inevitable banning of Beatrice, but also things like the new Fiendsmith cards that are coming out in Rage of the Abyss, as well as some other interesting niche case cards that we might have access to. But yeah, so I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.